guys, Samantha from Jessima Tutorials here, and today I'm going to show you how to create a cute pair of earrings using polymer clay. Now, I've got a sheet of white polymer clay here rolled out on the thickest setting of my pasta machine, and then I have 3 colours of metallic clay. This is Cernit today that I'm using, but any metallic will work. Here's a package of Cernit metallic. I'm using gold, turquoise and blue Cernit today, but again, any metallic will work. And I also have a silk screen of my choice. You can use any silk screen that you want, but basically we're going to be using a ring cutter for the outside of our piece, and then the inside we're going to be using a small circle cutter, and I've gotten a pattern that will look nice within a small circle cutter. So that's how I've decided my silk screen pattern. Now I'm going to cut this in. I just need a small amount for said circle cutter, so I'm going to put that to the side and we will use it later. And this we are going to apply our metallics to. So I'm going to grab those, pop this to the side because we will work with that in a moment, and these I'm actually going to chop up. And I haven't conditioned them at all, they are just straight out of the package. And that's going to give us nice sharp edges and prevent them from sticking to each other too much when we chop. And I'm going to chop them as fine as I can, and I'm chopping them all together because I want to mix the colours together so that we have an even dispersion of each colour. But just keep chopping nice and fine, like so. Okay, and then when you're happy with the size of the pieces, just mix it together like so, not squishing the pieces but just generally dispersing it so that they're all evenly dispersed. You don't want them sticking together. That's why I didn't condition this. I did condition the piece of white that we're going to be applying it to though. So I'll bring that over. And then you're going to take this and you're just going to sprinkle that over the surface. You don't need a lot. Okay. And for large clumps, just try to pick that up and move it around. You want them as separate as possible, while at the same time getting a decent amount of colour. I'm going to bring over the cutter again and see how that looks, because sometimes it looks more busy than it's actually going to be when you cut out the piece, so it's always good to view it through what your shape's going to be. And we haven't stuck any of this down yet, so we can always remove if you need to. And you can take that and gently kind of roll it around to get them dispersed out. And that should just about do. Now I'm going to bring over another piece of paper, go place that over the top and just give it a quick burnish to stick that clay down. And I'll bring over a roller to do the rest of that work. Okay, and once I've done that, I'm going to just lift. That's not completely finished yet, but I want to get rid of all of the excess clay that is just sitting on the edges, so that I have a nice clean area to work with, and you want to remove all of this. And there we go, that's a bit better. Then I'll bring over that piece of paper and I'm going to continue burnishing it. You can use your roller or you can use your fingers, and I'm going to keep doing that until it is completely flat, because I want those pieces completely embedded into the clay so that I can't feel the bumps anymore. And that could take a little bit of time, but the longer you spend doing it this way, the less sanding you're going to have to do when your pieces are baked. Okay, and here is how it should look once you've done that. You should also run your hand over and it should be completely smooth. to bring over the cutter of choice. And this is quite stuck to the paper, so I want to see if I can cut this out without having to lift it from the paper, because if I can get the backing to maintain the nice matte finish that we have from the paper, that'd be great. So what I do is I cut part of the way through and then I lift up so that I unstick the cutter a little bit, and I'll cut through again. Actually, because it's a round cutter, you can actually give it a twist and that helps unstick the cutter. That only really works if you're working with a round, so bear that in mind. But if I can keep it on the paper, that would be fantastic. If it does end up sticking in your cutter, you can generally poke it out, but if you're worried about it sticking in your cutter, you can always just burnish it onto your tile. A ceramic or glass tile will work. But the reason I'm doing this is because if I can cut it on the paper, I won't have to sand the back. And there we go, that actually looks like it cut clean. I'm going to cut out another one. I'll try and get a nice even appearance. Okay, and you could cut out a few more. I just need the 2 for right now. So I'll just lift the paper up, or the clay up. You can cut that out, use it for anything you want. And these are nice and clean. And then what you can do, because I want to maintain those circles, you can just bend the paper a little and give it a curve, and that way you can lift out the circles without having to damage them. I'll do the same with this one. There we go. And there we are. We've got 2 hoops. Put those to the side. We'll use those in a bit. Okay, and for the middle, I've decided to use some Cernit graphite rolled out on the thickest setting of my pasta machine, because the white I think isn't going to provide a high enough contrast, and so I decided to go with this. It's basically just a metallic black. Black would work as well. Now I'm going to bring over the silk screen, and just bear with me for a moment while I do that. There we go, and just smooth that down onto the surface like so. And I'm going to be using some gold acrylic paint. Okay, and just going to work that through the screen so that we get a nice clean impression. And then lift that up and clean the screen immediately. Okay, and while that's drying, you also allow the paint on this to dry, and then you can cut out your circle. I'm going to grab this, and I'm just going to choose spots that look nice. I think this one over here looks good. And again, I'm going to cut only part of the way through because I'm cutting on the paper again. Okay, and that one did end up sticking in the cutter. That's fine. There's a little lip around the edge. You can also poke it through with a little rubber tool, and that should come out easily. And again, if you don't want to deal with that, you can always cut it on the tile. That one's definitely going to stick in the cutter. That's fine. Okay, and I've just got them here with the 2 hoops, and I've also got these little pieces again, and I've grabbed one cutter size bigger than this one, and I'm going to cut these ones out so that we can suspend them in the middle there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab another piece of paper and just burnish these two specifically down, like so. Then cut them out. There we go. And just run your fingers around the side. That will clean up a bit. And I'll just position it in there so I can see how it looks. Do the same for this one. Cut it out. Remove the extra. Gently pop it up, clean the edge, and place it inside so that you can see how it's going to look. And there we go. Then I'm going to pop those into the oven for a full hour at Premo's recommended temperature. Once they're baked, then we're going to give the hoops a light sand. These ones you can't sand the top because it's got paint on it, so don't sand those ones. I'll show you how to sand these ones though, and then I'll show you how to assemble. Okay, and here they are out of the oven. And now we are going to sand them. Now because we already smoothed them off before we baked, there shouldn't be too much sanding involved. So I'm just going to bring over these polishing papers, and they come in a couple of grits. The green being the hardest grit, and then you go all the way through to white, which is quite a fine grit. What you do, you grab those, and they're going to remove a very small amount of clay. If you've got fingerprints or bumps that you can feel, or anything that needs to get really sanded off, I would recommend using wet dry sandpaper in a sink or a bath of water of some kind, and sanding that way. But this really is just to give yourself a little bit of a polish and to just clean up a little bit. But I'm going to go through each of the grits, and I'm just going to sand the sides and back with a 400 because these are going to get varnished with some Varathane gloss varnish. If you want to give them a buff, then I would recommend sanding up to a higher grit, but a 400 should do. And so after sanding them, I actually have decided that I want to sand and buff them, as I really like how they look. I don't know if I'm going to like them with a really glossy finish. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab some Renaissance wax, and I'm just going to pop that on. I've got a little on my finger here. And I just need to pop a little bit on the surface. You really don't need much. And again, I've only sanded this up to like 400 grit, and so I'm not going to get a very high shine when I buff it. It's going to just give it almost a satin sheen. So if you wanted to have a little more of a shine to it once it's been buffed, then I would recommend sanding it up to a bit of a higher grit. Then I'm going to use a Dremel tool with my buffing wheel. I sell these on my Etsy store, Jessima Design, along with the silk screens and the cutters that I use. And I'm going to just take that and I'm going to buff my piece. And you would buff the front and you would buff the back, and hopefully you're able to catch that there, that it's got a little bit of a shine, but not too much. I'll do this one. Also, I forgot to mention with this one, I did not sand the front, I only sand the sides and the back, but I am going to buff all the sides for these. Okay, and then when that's done, we're going to drill. Now, I did end up assembling the other earring and even drilled the holes on this piece, and I ended up deciding that it just doesn't really work. I found that this was too much after I'd assembled it all, so I'm going to not work with that piece. You can always change your mind when you're making these projects. Don't feel like you have to stick with a design element once it's baked. You can always pop them into a pot of bits and bobs, and you can add them to a later project. But go with what you feel is working in the moment. But I usually will drill the middle one first. Then I'll grab that and then push this down so that I center that. Okay, and then you can line up your hole in your hoop. Drill that through. And this is just a little handheld pin drill. You can use a motorized drill if you want as well. You could even drill the holes before you bake the piece, though I prefer doing that afterwards because you don't end up distorting the shape anywhere near as easily. I mean, you can't distort the shape once it's baked, and that's why I prefer doing that. There we go. Okay, and then it's just as simple as assembling. I've got two small gold jump rings here, and I also have a ear wire off to the side, and you just open those up, and we're going to link those two pieces together. You might need to experiment around with the different size jump rings that you use, because it's going to depend on where you place the hole. And I actually didn't end up drilling through completely the bottom one there, so I was having trouble there. But depending on how thick your clay is and whereabouts you're comfortable drilling the hole, I am quite confident in my pieces being baked properly, so I can drill the hole really close to the edge without worrying about it breaking. But yeah, you might need to play around with the different sizes of jump rings that you use. And you might want thicker ones, you might want thinner ones. I'm using kind of in the middle ground here. But yeah, test around, see what fits for you. And then once you've got that, then just grab your ear wire and attach that to the top. Like so. And it is that easy. And I think it's quite a cute little design. I don't think I've done this before, where I've got a shape suspended inside another shape. I'll just show you how that looks. And here's the other one. And I think they look quite nice. I did, as I said before, I did put the little black pieces on, and in the moment when I was making the piece I thought it looked good with that, but it ended up being too much once I disassembled it. But yeah, that is basically it for the tutorial. If you enjoyed it, please do let me know in the comments below, and if you would like to see more videos like this one, again let me know in the comments what suggestions you have, and please do consider liking the video as it helps support the channel so I can continue making videos. And as always, I will see you in the next video. Bye for now.